With all the amazing Canva apps available in the ecosystem now, it's so easy to miss the really useful ones, but there are some true gems hidden there that can make design easy for you. I'm Natalia and I help you create better content and grow on social media, and today I'll help you discover some of the most interesting Canva apps at the moment. So hit the like button, subscribe, and let's jump straight to Canva. The first one is the Warp Brush app, and it lets you distort or warp your image or an element. It can be so helpful when you have a piece of clothing stick out in a weird way, if you want to adjust an object that doesn't really look symmetrical. You can even, fix a bend in a ponytail that looks a little weird, and so much more. By the way, if you want to try Canva Pro for $0 or pounds or whatever your currency is, then grab the 30-day trial from the link down below and have fun with all the amazing pro templates and elements and super useful features. For all the apps that we'll be covering today, every time you want to access them, you'll go to the apps tab in here, and then in the search bar, you can start typing. The first one we're going for is the Warp Brush, and you can see that all the app names are being suggested to you straight away. If you go to Warp Brush in here, you can see that not only this one appears, but also the other ones with the keywords with them. But this is exactly the one that we want, Warp Brush. And from here, you can select an image to transform. So I'm going to select this one in here, and you can see the three options. We have Warp, Grow, and Shrink. For Warp, if you want to adjust the brush size or the strength from here, you can do it like this, and then you can just ever so slightly start moving maybe this little kind of edge in here. If you want to hide it like this, you can also improve the size of the brush just to match what you're looking for, and maybe make it a little bit bigger just like this, and you can start adjusting it ever so slightly. Once you're happy with the effect, you can go to Save, and this is how you can kind of, again, work out those little kinks in the clothes and stuff like this. Let me show you another one as well. If you want to go to Grow in here and adjust maybe the brush strength, and then maybe I want to just make this flower a little bit bigger, I could do something like this if I wanted to. It also works for hair, so if I wanted to add a little bit more volume to it, I can do it like this, but make sure that you're using a big or a small enough brush size to not affect any of the areas around the image in here. I could go to Warp back in here and maybe adjust the strength ever so slightly like this, and then from here just work out this little kind of edge in here. So this is how it works, and of course you also have the option to shrink things. So if I wanted to shrink the flower, I could do it the same way like this. And again, once you're happy, you just go to Save like this, and then you can see that things are being added to your account as we speak. Warbrush has successfully uploaded to the media. So just to quickly show you what it looks like, you can see that I've got all these images that I've just kind of manipulated, and this is an easy way to fix certain things in your image or make things smaller or bigger. Next one up is Frame Blur, and this app is actually much more powerful than it looks. It lets you draw directly on an image to blur out specific areas, to add color overlays, to pixelate some areas, add zoom blur or motion blur, which is great for so many different use cases. If you want to hide sensitive info, add some visual interest through motion, or highlight just one element in your design, let me show you how I used it. Let's jump back into the apps panel, and this time we're looking for Frame Blur. This is the one that we're looking for. It's the purple one, and once it loads, you can see that you can either choose a file, so you can just upload it from your drive, or you can click on any of the elements that you've got inside your design and then click Edit Image. Once we're in, you can see that you've got the option to brush things, to add shapes, or to add text, and this way kind of add the different effects. But let me show you the brush effect. From here, again, you can change the brush size or change the fade. You can see that if I make it big so that you can see it clearly, you can fade it very much so that it's nicely blurred at the edges, or you can make it super solid like this. So depending on what effect you want to add, this is kind of your control over it. There's also the option to remove things. I'll show that to you in just a moment. And these are the super cool effects that you can apply. Of course, we have Gaussian blur, which is something that you may know from blur option. Again, if I wanted to remove it, I can just kind of brush it over like this, or again, let's add a little bit again, and then you can just simply remove it by going to clear, but that's going to clear every single thing that you add in terms of these different effects to your image. Now, the second one over is color, and you can see that I can add super cool effects from here. This is the color panel, so there's no color dropper, sadly. However, you can just, maybe I'll find something a little bit kind of red-ish in here, and then I can just kind of blur it like this, and you can see that it adds that color effect like this. If you're looking looking for something kind of more funky, you can add it this way. Of course, you can kind of keep adding for different elements like this. You can kind of keep adding these effects and then again, change the color transparency, go back, remove things if you want. So you can see that I clicked away by mistake, but I just added that back on so that we were working from the same thing. Remember not to click on any of the other kind of sides of the design just because it's going to take you outside of the app. So every time you want to add it, just save it or save as a copy. And this way it's going to get re-uploaded to your account and you're safe. From here, you can also add more settings. So you can add transparency in here just like this, or you can invert it like that if you want to. Then you can see motion, which I really, really love. You can see that I've got the same kind of blur effect in here, the same kind of smudge that I added in here with color, but now I've changed it to motion. So you can adjust the level of motion that you want. If you want that little cool fade just like this, you can add it very quickly. This is really great. I love it. You also have zoom from here, and maybe try to add it around kind of the hair in here just like this, and maybe with the hand just to add a little bit of that zoomed in motion like this. This can be quite a cool thing. And again, if you feel like it's not working for you, you can of course go back and kind of remove the edges like this. I might want to, again, I lost my train of thought because you can see that I've dragged this image. So this is the part that I don't really enjoy, the fact that you can so easily just lose all of your progress. So let's jump back right in. This is one thing that I wish the developers of this app fixed because it's really annoying to just go kind of back and forth, but I still really love the effects that it gives us. So again, I don't want anything on the hair. Maybe I want something kind of add a bit of emotion on the kind of part of the body in here, just like this. I can keep adding it like that. And again, you have the inner circle positioning adjustment from the advanced settings in here if you want to, so you can add the kind of the intensity in here and you can change the position. So if I went for something like this or like that, you can see that it changes the direction of the zoom, which is quite a cool thing. And again, it lets you add so many incredible effects and it adds that bit of emotion to your image. At this stage, let me save it and I'll save it as a copy. You can see that from here, it will add it to your account. Let's say this is what I'm happy with. I can jump back into it and again, keep adding these effects. So again, if I wanted to add a bit of that color back in here, I could just jump back and add it and then save it again. So this is how you kind of layer these different effects. But for now, let me show you another cool thing. So this is pixelating. Imagine you want to censor something on your image or you need to blur out someone's face. You can do it by going to the pixelate effect. And again, I can just select her face in here, then go to more settings from here. And then you can again, change the intensity in here, change the transparency like this, or you can just invert it for this kind of an effect. And of course, you have the glass effect in here. Let me actually add it to the whole person just like this. And again, if you go to more settings, you can see that you can change the intensity. This is a very powerful app, I feel like, especially if you play around a lot with these effects and if you layer them, if you add certain elements. I hope I've shown you what you can achieve with it. Now, something that I used to love to do when I was a photographer is to create different moods for my photographs using textures. And this carried over to this day. I love to add depth and character to some of my designs with a fun overlay and a bit of a gritty texture. And this is exactly what this new app does. It's conveniently called Texture, and it's a really great one. Okay, for our third one, let's go and search for texture. And again, this is the one that we're working with. I can select this image in here. I like it, but I would like to add a bit more of that visual interest, a bit more of that kind of grit. It feels a little too clean in terms of the kind of the background and the texture. So from here, you can see that you've got all the different types of overlays from paper, paint, VHS, grit, film grain, light, fabric, and grunge. All of these can give you loads of different effects and add a little bit more of that character to your images. Let's try maybe paper in here, and I can show you that all you need to do is to literally just kind of choose something. So I've chosen that one, but you can just go to maybe this messy texture. You can see that you can scale it up like this. You can rotate ever so slightly if you want it only on the part of the image, or if you want to make sure that it kind of covers it completely. Then you can change the opacities. You can drop it ever so slightly. You can see that it already adds a bit of that texture of the paper. So it actually blends with what we've got underneath, and that looks a little bit more natural. And from here, something that I absolutely love, and I love playing with blend modes. This is something that is super cool. And if you want to, multiply is the standard, but if you want to, you can also play around with these different ones and then change the opacity. And these also give you different effects. So if I wanted to go for something like this, you can see that it changes the nature of the texture itself. So this is super cool. Darken is really great because it applies, it only darkens the places. So if there's something lighter than the texture, it will add it to these places, but it won't add it to places that are darker. Same goes for lighten. It's kind of the inverted effect, if you will. As you can see, that just adds it to those places that are a little bit lighter than this. So again, play around with these. These are really cool, and soft light is something that I used to use a lot. You can see that makes things a lot more natural. There's only kind of a hint of these things. So blend modes are really great. I'll stick to multiply because I feel like it worked really great with this one. So I'll just save it. You can see that again, texture has successfully uploaded the media to your library. Let me jump back into elements just to re-add this image. So again, if we go back to texture, you can see the other ones. I love grit. I've always liked like gritty and grainy fabrics like this. You can see the light ones. Grunge is really great as well. Let's go to grunge. Let's go all out and explore. Yeah, I can see how much of an effect it adds. You can see that with rotation, you can kind of play around with where it goes like this. You can kind of scale it up, scale it down. Super cool. And there are so many effects like this that like I've spent hours literally just looking through these and you know, adding these funky effects, because you can see how much it changes the nature of it, and it almost makes it more tactile. It adds that kind of grit and that character. So I really love playing with textures, and I feel like this has been one of the ones that I've been using the most lately, just for my own kind of personal projects that I loved having fun with. So this is really, really cool. Okay, the next app on our list is Design to Image, and this is a really simple app that can really, really speed up your workflow. It helps you transform a page in your design directly into a PNG or a JPEG image, and then use it straight away without having to spend time, you know, downloading and then re-uploading it back to Canva. It seems very small, but saves a lot of time, but it's best if I show you an example. So let's say I want to use this image as the cover for my mockups in here. So this is the one that I want to enter it into, and that's the second one, a lovely template, both of them actually. And from here, if I wanted to do it normally, I would have to go to share and then download it, then re-upload it back into Canva. But now all I need to do, I mean, not now, it's been here for a while, but if you go to the Canva apps, go to Design to Image, and this is the one that we're looking for. And again, as I've said, this is very, very simple. Make sure to just choose one page, because if you go for multiple pages, it just won't work. So I'm going to current page like this. I can choose PNG or JPEG, as I've mentioned, and I can go to export. As you can see, it's successfully uploaded to my media, and I can also add it to the current page like this. So I can just quickly kind of cut it in here, add it like this, and then start using it as the basis of my mockup. So again, it saved me a lot of time in terms of like adding and re-adding certain things. And very often, like, I use this app seriously every single day right now, because it's just something that makes things a lot more easy. I was working on a product, and actually I was showing a lot of kind of different demonstrations and things of that nature. So this saved me a ton, because I could just, with the multi-page design, by the way, watch this video here if you want to know more about the multi-page designing. I'm just kind of adding new doc types in here and demonstrating certain things. And from here, I can just very quickly, you know, jump back into apps. I actually have it in here all the time, Design to Image, and this just speeds up the workflow so much. Okay, this is an app that I've already mentioned very briefly in this video because it's pretty helpful, but I kind of wish Canva developed this as a feature natively within the platform. More about it in my other wishes in here. You can also share yours there, so hopefully Canva sees and helps us out a little. But the Reshape app helps you transform an image in a few different ways so that it fits better in a design. Here's how. You can see that this is a mock-up, but it's not really a real mock-up. This is not something that I can just kind of insert my image into. This is just an image. So I'm going to try to manipulate my image. So this is the one. It's funny because I feel like it's actually the same model in here, so it's probably from the same photo shoot. Anyways, I'm going to try to make sure that this one kind of fits the mold of the iPad underneath in here. So I'm going to go to apps, and from here you see Reshape. This is the one that we're looking for, and now we have distort, skew, perspective, and warp. Now with distort, you can see that we have 8 different touch points around here that change the way this image looks. And by just dragging them like this, you can see that it kind of changes things a little bit. Now, apart from that, this purple line is actually the boundary of the image. So if you kind of move things around, you can see that crops things. So this is another thing. As a little tip, this is why I actually prefer to start with a bigger image. I'll show you that in just a second. But you can see, again, that by dragging this image, I can make the image kind of a little bit wider like this. I can do it a little bit more narrow. I can skew it. So this is how it changes this kind of perspective. So it's pretty great. Now let's drag it back. And once you're happy, don't forget to go to save, because again, it's one of those apps that if you click away, all the changes disappear. So again, it's a little bit annoying. Remember that this is something that you have to do. So let's start over with this one, and I'll actually make the image bigger. The next one over is skew, and it does exactly that. You can see that by dragging in here, I can actually just skew it, but I can no longer make it narrow. It just moves things around like this. So this is a bit of a different option. Next one is perspective, and you can see that with perspective, you have a bit more precision in terms of how these things look. You can see that I can kind of drag it so that it's almost kind of skewing to the back ever so slightly. So this is how you can adapt this perspective. I can also click save at this point. Let's say I'm happy with it. Then we have warp. So again, you can see that I retained the perspective effect. Now I'm adding the warp. And in terms of warp, this is like a super funky one because you can literally just drag corners like this, and you can kind of almost fold the image onto itself if you wanted to. But this gives you a lot more freedom in terms of what it looks like. So it's almost like a combination of kind of the distort one and all the other ones. So you can kind of warp it into place like this. Again, you can still make it more narrow. So if you ever needed an effect of that nature, you can play around with it like this. And let's say this is what I'm happy with, but this is the effect that you can kind of work with. And of course, apart from that, I can then add the shadows and things like that. So this could be a great way to dynamically show your images, or again, your products maybe, or ebook, things like that. So this is a great option. I feel like Reshape gives us a lot of options. I still feel like there are certain things that I would prefer for it to do. It's not perfect, but still it's better than not having these things natively at all. And actually, let me try to make it work, okay? I'll add a bit of a corner rounding in here because obviously the iPad edges have this bit of a corner rounding. I'll say 15. I don't know if it's going to work. We'll just wing it at the moment. And what I've done is to kind of cover the iPad in here and make it a little bit bigger because I want to make sure that I've got all the space that I need to work with it. Now I'm going to zoom in because I want the precision, right? So I'll go for distort. This is the first option that I want to use. And from here, you can see that I can kind of start manipulating the edges like this. So let me make it a little bit smaller first. And then you can see that from here, I can add this one to the corner in here, then this one, and of course using the scroll of my mouse I can keep kind of adding and tweaking certain things. So I'll just move things around in here. Of course, this is the boundary, this is the annoying part, of course. Bang, bang, bang. Okay, let's say this is what I'm happy with. Let's save it. And when I scroll out, it actually does look pretty good. I can always go to edit and go to adjust. From here, I can just get the brightness a little bit down because I don't feel like it needs as much of the brightness. I could even play with the contrast just because obviously you need to take into account the other parts of the image. Just like this, you could lower the sharpness ever so slightly if you wanted to, just for a more kind of natural effect, just like this. And yeah, this is what it looks like. So you can see that I did make it work. It actually does look natural, so I'm very happy that this app does exist. And as a side note, maybe an honorable mention in here, the app that I found to be somewhat better sometimes for perspective shifting is actually Transform Image. Let me show you why. This is the one that I'm talking about, Transform Image. And now it does annoy me a little because you have to actually upload an image and can't pull images from within Canva. At least I don't know how to do it because it's literally like, I know that this could have been a frame or something. I was trying to look, but it just literally asks you to upload. So that's one bit of a bummer, but once you actually upload it, you can see that from here, you can go ahead and just literally drag it. And that's how the perspective works. So this is quite cool if you just want a freehand experience. It gives you a bit more of that like spherical preview, I feel like it feels a lot more fluid and it's tougher to really mess up your image because you're not kind of working within a specific boundary. And this is why I'm saying, like, for some use cases, it does seem better, but generally I do prefer Reshape for things like mockups, as I've shown you, just because I feel like you have more control over it, and also because it overlays on top of your existing image or existing design, you can kind of match things a little bit better. So add it to the design from here, and you can see that now we have this effect. This is what I'm working with right now. And again, as with anything else, I can just add a shadow like this if I wanted to. So again, it's quite a cool app, and it does give you a little bit more of that kind of funky feel without messing up the structure of the image. So I could do literally something like this. Maybe I'll delete this image, and you can see that feels a lot more dynamic right now, and I can kind of play around with it, make it bigger, make it smaller. So I like this one a lot. I feel like all of these have little things that would change maybe a little bit, but this is quite a cool one. I definitely do prefer the Reshape one in general. Okay, but I'd love to know which one of these is your favorite, so drop me a comment below and watch this video next to create better designs using the amazing Canva AI photo editor features, or pop in to see this one for more useful Canva apps, of course. Don't forget to like this video. It really helps my channel a ton so it can bring you more value, and of course subscribe while you're at it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.